Today's show is sponsored by the Franklin Street Market. If you love knowing what's up and coming in the Pittsburgh food scene, you've got to check out the spring edition of the Franklin Street Market on the north side. It's an evening food market featuring emerging Pittsburgh food producers, and it's your opportunity to discover emerging food brands, pick up fresh flowers and art, and enjoy a lush Pittsburgh spring evening with a local beverage in hand. They're coming up on Thursdays. That's April 24th, May 29th, and June 26th, all from 4 to 8 p.m. at 1243 North Franklin Street. So come experience the food businesses that are blossoming in Pittsburgh at the Franklin Street Market. Learn more at franklinstreetmarketpgh.com. This episode is supported by Liberty Magic and its upcoming show, Malin Nilsson in Magic Unplugged. Magic is part of Malin's blood. She is a third-generation magician who's showcasing her skills as part of a laugh-out-loud and very theatrical performance. You'll experience handmade magic tricks, surrealism, and comedy, topped with raw onions and a pinch of confetti. If you want to see how raw onions fit into magic, well, you're just going to have to come catch the show for yourself. Malin Nilsson in Magic Unplugged is running now through May 4th at Liberty Magic, Pittsburgh's premier speakeasy that is all about the sleight of hand and elevating the art of magic. And if you're really adventurous, you should snag Skeleton VIP tickets. It gets you front row access and an exclusive meet and greet after the show. Get your tickets at trustarts.org/magic before they disappear.
Today on CityCast Pittsburgh. It's almost Earth Day, so if you want to celebrate, we're talking about the best ways to experience Pittsburgh's gorgeous, gorgeous parks. So whether you want to have a romantic picnic or you have a hyperactive dog who needs to run loose, there is a park for you. And we're bringing on a local park expert to play a little matchmaking. It's Thursday, April 17th. I'm Sophia Lowe, and here's what Pittsburgh's talking about. I'm with Matthew Heilman, the Director of Operations and Visitor Engagement at the Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy. Hey, Matthew, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to talk about the parks here. I moved to Pittsburgh pretty recently, just a couple of years ago, and the thing that's felt really distinct to me is the way the parks are just like so well integrated into the city. Obviously, lots of cities do parks well, but here it feels like you can really disappear into nature. Best parks, in my opinion. But I'm sure you've got, more data. You've talked to more folks who are in the park world. Am I right? Are our parks really better?
Yeah, so Pittsburgh is really unique. It's probably, as American cities go, it's probably more like London in England in that you have all of these boroughs that are sort of woven together, and the thing that ties them all together are these parks. So there are actually 176 parks in the sort of boundaries of Pittsburgh, if you can imagine that. So it's something like almost 4,000 acres. So we're a very green city.
And how do we end up with such a vibrant park system? What's the history behind that?
So really what it all comes down to in the end is it's the Gilded Age. You had the Mellon family, you had the Fricks, the Westinghouses.
Mm-hmm.
This was a hub of industry, railroad, electricity, you name it. So really the park system itself in many ways is born out of not only these wealthy families, but essentially most of them were the estates or the backyards of famous mansions that are, some of them still exist, some of them are gone. Mm-hmm. But that's really how we ended up with so many city parks is that most of them were given to the city.
Yeah, that tracks because so many of these longstanding cultural institutions also go back to those rich families. Well, let's dig into these parks a little bit more and talk about where to explore. What are some of the overlooked areas in our parks? Like, I have been to Flagstaff Hill, that's the big hill in Shenley, so many times.
Yeah, no, of course. It's funny that I think there's quite a few parks that people are sort of either mildly aware of, or maybe they sort of fell off their radar. One of them is Riverview Park, which is a massive park. up in the Perry neighborhood, north side of Pittsburgh. I love that park. I mean, first of all, it has an observatory, which means that it's probably one of the best places to go just with the naked eye for star viewing.
Very cool. I've been there once and just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those parks you go up there and, any given day, like a day like today, it's beautiful, it's sunny, you'll see a million people walking around in frickin' Shenley. You go up to Riverview and you don't see that many people because it's very much a neighborhood park. It's still not quite a destination park, which is something that we at the Conservancy are really trying to together some programs and reactivate it. But it's a really cool park in that there's two ways to enter it. You can come in from the upper side off of Parisville Avenue, and that'll take you very close to the observatory, or you can come in from the lower side. So it actually wends its way all the way down into a valley, and it's very park-like. There's lots of walking trails, but you can easily close your eyes and find yourself in the woods, but yet still be in the city.
Yeah, like I said, that is one of the things that just impressed me the most when I moved here. And then, you just mentioned neighborhood parks. I know Riverview Park is still one of those kind of like flagship bigger destinations, even if it doesn't get the same attention as like Frick. But what smaller neighborhood parks do you recommend also checking out? Like I'm thinking in my area, I'm pretty close to like Arsenal Park, things like that where you really get those little pockets.
Yeah. Well, one of the ones that when I talk to people, it seems like a lot of people are not even familiar with, which is the West End Overlook Park. So that's out. If you were down on the south side, if you sort of picture where Carson Street runs through and all of the, all of that sort of excitement and restaurants, whatever, but you go all the way up westward on Carson Street, the park is up on a mountainside and it overlooks Carson Street and it overlooks the Ohio River. Some of the best views in the city. You get these incredible views of the point and, downtown, but it's also tons of trees. It's great for birding. It's great for just sort of solitude. A lot of people are not familiar with that park. Emerald View is another one that's up on Mount Washington that sort of falls
Yeah.
off the radar a lot.
Well, we want to help our listeners find the perfect park no matter what activity they're there for. So we have some categories for you. To start us off, which park has the best views besides the West End Overlook?
Obviously, I'm going to reveal myself today that I have this personal affection for Riverview. There's such a great view from Observatory Hill over there because it's a different perspective of the city. I mean, like you said, West End Overlook, Mount Washington, I think those are really obviously known viewing spots,
Right.
have been for decades. Shenley Park, so up at the top of what we call the oval, so it's sort of the up above where the golf course is. Decades ago, I mean, we're talking almost 100 years ago, there was actually a race course up there before there was,
Oh,
yeah, there
wow.
was literally horse racing, like a full. So where the tennis courts are up there, and where of course, the ice rink has always been there. But if you're looking at it to the right of the ice rink, there was a racetrack. But up there on that hill, it's one of the most beautiful, especially nighttime views. If you're on a date and you really want that sort of
Ooh,
sparkly
okay.
romantic city view, that's the place to go. Because it's never overloaded, it's never overwhelming. Sometimes you'll see people just sitting, there's not a lot of benches, but it's just such a great striking space.
Yeah. And since you mentioned dates, I'd love to go back and hear your recommendations for more date spots. You hit the nighttime. What about a daytime date?
So probably about 20 years or so ago, and of course the Parks Conservancy was a huge driver of this. The parks, let's say late 90s, early 2000s, in general had started to really languish. But a lot of community groups started to get together. Of course, the Conservancy started as a community group, essentially. I mean, you're basically talking about a small handful of women who said, gosh, Shenley Park looks terrible. Like, what can we do? And it just bloomed and blossomed from there. So all of the parks, for the most part, especially the major ones, have all been redone. They're beautiful, safe spaces. I mean, when you talk about sort of romantic, especially in the fall, Shenley's such an amazing park because there's different layers to it, right? But the most romantic part of that park is the visitor center with its little medieval cottage style. And then you go down behind that, and there's the cobblestones that wend their way into the forest, and there's these stone bridges. It's very kind of Lord of the Rings. It's a fun space.
Yeah, I've definitely been down that path with my partner. Very fairy tale-esque. Definitely would agree with you.
Very fairy tale-esque, right?
Well, let's talk a little bit about hiking. Let's start with some easy hikes. Where do you recommend getting your steps in?
Frick Park is 655 acres. It's the largest park in Pittsburgh. Frick is one of those parks that has it all, right? It's tons of paved spaces. In fact, Frick Park, we're just finishing up a whole brand new sensory classroom and a program that is designed specifically for people with disabilities. They're one of the fewest programs in the country that will have a track chair program starting next fall.
Oh, that's awesome.
Literally, right? So a person would be able to hike up this like as steep as a 20-degree angle hike in one of these track chairs. Like, it's amazing. So Frick Park is really made for that. So you've got everything from easy walking to, because of the elevations of it and the size of it, you can hike into the trees, into the woods. I wouldn't say that there's really any crazy sort of really intense bushwhacking, any sort of hiking in Pittsburgh, but 45-minute drive, you're out anywhere, right? We are surrounded by state parks and woods, like actual. If that's what you're into, you want to go spelunking, right? That's
Well, then let's take it to the challenging hikes. It's fine if you go outside of Pittsburgh for this one.
Yeah.
For those people who are maybe looking for more of like a day hike, something a little longer, where do you go?
Yeah, well, I mean, North Park is definitely a great space for people that are into more vigorous activity. They have, I don't know if you would call it a lake, but there's sort of a boathouse up there and you can rent kayaks and there's tons of woods and hiking and, again, different elevations. The Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy, we're really good about trying to put how strenuous a walk is on our website. So it's like a great resource for people if you're not quite sure. I always joke around and say, you might have to medevac me out of someplace. But North Park is a great space if you want to sort of still be close to civilization, but you want that more rigorous kind of workout.
Hi, I'm David Plotz, the CEO of CityCast. We've all set health goals: lose weight, exercise more, eat better. But without a plan, those goals often fade. That may have happened to you. It has definitely happened to me. And that's where Prolon comes in. Prolon's 5-day fasting mimicking diet gives you a science-backed, structured approach to stay on track and see real results. And now Prolon is upping their game with the new Next Gen 5-day program, delivering the same science-backed benefits in a cleaner, more convenient, and more flavorful format. Prolon is a plant-based nutrition program featuring soups, snacks, and beverages designed to nourish the body while keeping it in a fasting state, triggering cellular rejuvenation and renewal. Next Gen builds on the original Prolon with 100% organic soups and teas, a richer taste, and ready-to-eat meals. Developed over decades at USC's Longevity Institute and backed by top U.S. medical centers, Prolon has been shown to support biological age reduction, metabolic health, skin appearance, fat loss, and energy. I've been doing the 5-day program, and I feel so much better. I really enjoy the tasty energy bars, the snacks and soups, and the fact that I can enjoy meals, even though the calorie count is super low. The flavors and textures are excellent. An olive oil snack here, broccoli and quinoa soup there, hibiscus tea, a yummy nut bar. It's got the benefits of a 5-day fast, but doesn't have the challenge of doing it with pure liquids. It's a system reset. And also, I know this sounds funny, but it's not. The packaging and directions are fantastic, clear, and well-organized and thoughtful. For a limited time, you can be first in line to experience the new Next Gen at special savings. Prolon is offering CityCast listeners 15% off site-wide, plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe to their 5-day program. Just visit prolonlife.com/city. That's PROLONLIFE.com/city to claim your 15% discount and your bonus gift. prolonlife.com/city.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to discover. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard, based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
So I also want to talk a little bit about bird watching. If you want to maybe just passively take in some of that nature, what are the best parks for bird watching, and like what kind of birds should people be looking out for?
So yeah, one of the most unlikely places for birding in my opinion, is Shanley Plaza, right down smack in front of the Cathedral of Learning, right? So you're right in the middle of this super urban space, but there is a red-tailed hawk that nests on top of the Cathedral of Learning. And so we will have birders.
Right.
Isn't it crazy? So they'll come from all over and they'll sit out there on the lawn with their binoculars, especially in the spring coming up here soon. They'll be nesting, they'll be laying eggs and having, young, and there'll be people out there wanting to spot that. Frick is definitely known as one of the best birding spots in the city, of course. But again, Emerald View, West End Park, those are great spots. And because they're less traveled, you're probably more likely to see birds because there isn't that much activity. So they're kind of in their natural habitat.
Yeah, I find that when I go to parks like really early in the day, I can hear the woodpeckers and everything more so than when, it's a really busy weekend.
We forget that we're in this very sort of odd place, right? Like we're surrounded by forests, countrysides, mountains. Even for people that aren't into birding, if you like any kind of like gaming or finding type exercises, it's like go online, see what the most rare birds are, and see if you can go out and spot them.
Yeah, I think I've seen a hawk once in the parks, and I am not like super well versed in birds, but I think whenever you see like a bird of prey like that is just breathtaking.
Absolutely.
And
Oh my gosh, right? Because especially to see them up close in the wild, right? It's just something you don't see every day.
oh, totally. Another animal question. What about good parks for dog owners to bring their pets, bird off a little steam? Are there areas where dogs can go off leash?
So it's kind of a loaded question, actually, because if you look the city of Pittsburgh, the regulations say, yes, we're a very dog friendly city. I mean, again, very European in that respect. Everybody has a dog, it feels like. I don't have a dog. I love dogs, but
I don't have a dog either. I used to go to a dog park to pet dogs, but
Right.
I'm a cat person in my home.
Me too. Me too. So we definitely share that. So dogs are welcome, but you have to have a dog on a leash in all of the Pittsburgh parks. That's actually a city ordinance.
Oh, okay.
However, there are, as you said, quite a few dog parks. I would say that almost all of the parks, Highland Park has a really great, huge dog park. That's a very neighborhood focused area up there because you're so close to Lawrenceville and sort of those sort of densely populated boroughs up there in the northern part of the city. If anyone's interested, what you just have to do is just Google off-leash dog areas Pittsburgh, and it will give you the list of the places that have specific off-leash areas.
So let's go through a few more superlatives. What is our most underrated park?
Allegheny Commons, which is a massive park on the north side, it's such a cool space, and it was one of those parks that that whole neighborhood over there has sort of gone through different transitions over the years. The Conservancy, I mean, it's one of those parks that we wish that we had $35 million to just go in tomorrow and just do it all. We did a major capital project in there that just wrapped up. We did a ribbon cutting last spring where we redid the walkways and the lampposts behind the aviary all the way down to where the Rooney Fountain is. The Rooney Fountain was one of our big projects, but that is such a cool park. It's just one of those spaces that it's huge. It's smack in the middle of a neighborhood, but it also sits on top of the aviary, the Children's Museum. And it's one of those parks that I think that people, if you don't live there, you don't really think about it. And so we're actually planning a family day. In fact, our first family day of the year that the Conservancy is going to be in Allegheny Commons in June, because we really want people to sort of rediscover some of these places. It's a beautiful park. It's huge. And it's mostly flat too, which is great. So it's awesome for walking on different levels of walkers, and especially if you have any type of disability, it's beautiful. It's paved. You can do the whole park essentially without worrying about, having to, hike or put on the right shoes or whatever.
And that is a very rare thing in Pittsburgh, especially for a park that size. And you've mentioned so many of these spaces that you said have gotten like a facelift. Things are different now. What would you say is our most improved park? Like if people haven't visited for a few years, maybe they should
So
go check it out.
every time I mention this park, people always look at me like, what? Where? Who? So Frankie Pace Park. Have you heard of this one?
I know the name Frankie Pace, but I don't actually know where this park is. I know she was an activist in the Hill District, married to Charles Henry Pace, who was the father of Black gospel music. But I know all this history, but I guess I don't know where this park is.
Yeah, exactly. So in addition to everything you just said, Frankie Pace, she was also the leader of the Hill District community organization up there, decades ago. We're talking about going back to the 1950s. The Hill, obviously, you'd come down the hill, you go right into downtown. Well, when they built the Civic Arena and when they literally cut the Hill District off from downtown when they built the highway system, right?
Yeah.
So 376. So, gosh, it's only been a few years. It was a $32 million project that was almost all federally funded, and it's one of the most unique parks in the country. Because literally what they did is they decided to build over top of that sort of nexus of highway and road. So they literally capped it and then reconnected the hill with downtown. So, obviously the old Civic Arena is gone. That park is stunning. And it's just this like amazing combination of green, but also plaza. It's a tiered park. So it actually has, if it rains, there's like a channel that runs through it. And you could actually like put a little paper boat on it and make it go all the way down to the bottom of the park. Like it's just a really fun space. And it wasn't one of the Conservancy's projects, but we're obviously very well connected with the Hill District in downtown, and we work with those community groups. We're trying to figure out a way to help activate it. So yeah, that's a really cool space that I recommend anybody go check out.
Yeah, now I definitely want to check it out after it rains. I've never heard of like a park's landscape made to kind of shift as the weather's shifting.
It's a beautiful space. You have to see it.
Since you brought up like history and stuff, what is the most like fascinating fact about Pittsburgh's parks? Like I've heard that the dog park at Riverview used to be a zoo. Is that true? Let's start there and then you can tell me your favorite fact.
So zoo sounds very grand. Believe it or not, almost all of the parks had some animal display at one time. So yes, there was a quote unquote zoo at Riverview, not quite as big as you might think it is.
So like, are we talking like petting zoo? Like what kind of animals were there?
No, so they had an elephant, they had bears, they had some large animals. However, so it closed in 1910, and the reason being that Highland Park, which is the zoo that we have, right, our major zoo, it was just too popular, so you couldn't compete with it. The Pittsburgh parks, if you could go back in time, I mean, they were really fascinating. So where the reservoir is in Highland Park, we have picture postcards of boats, pleasure boats with like candy striped canopies. All of that stuff has changed, right? There was boating, there were carriage rides, there was a race course, like I said, there was a casino. With the fact, fun historical
in a park,
fact.
Like you were gambling in the park.
So the casino is not what you think it is, right? Because that's what I thought too. I was like, oh, gambling. So where the Frick Fine Arts Building is, right down in Shenley in the plaza behind the fountain, that was the very first ice rink in America. And it was called the Casino. And it was this huge, crazy Victorian building. It burned down, I think, within a year because the technology was so ahead of its game and all of the stuff that they needed to keep the ice frozen 365 days out of the year. It didn't quite blow up, but it was pretty close. So I think after that, they were like, yeah, maybe this isn't such a great idea.
Yeah, maybe not then, but call me if, 2025, we have better technology, you're bringing the ice rink back, because that would definitely draw me in. But is there any other park history you love, you think more people should know about?
So Westinghouse Park, when you talk about interesting park history, George Westinghouse, he had a mansion in what is now Westinghouse Park, so 10 acres. That was his yard, essentially, and his mansion was called Solitude. So Nikola Tesla was actually one of Westinghouse's engineers, so he visited frequently. But what's really interesting, and one of the sort of like, hidden secrets of Pittsburgh is when Westinghouse deeded in his will the mansion and the grounds to the city, it was very specifically stipulated that the house should be torn down in order to make it a park. And so if you go out, now, of course, we're not encouraging this, but there have been some archaeological digs done out there. You'll find artifacts because there was a mansion. There was a huge mansion on that property at one time. So that's a pretty cool thing. The house was literally demolished, but the foundation is still there. It's under the park somewhere.
I want to end with a few events. Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy puts on so many different types of programming. You can experience the park in so many different types of ways. Are there any particular types of events you like to go to the most, or, you're hosting yourself?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things that we do is it's been 20 plus years. Ever since the plaza was around. So it's been almost 20 years. WYP, the nonprofit radio station, does a huge music festival in June. And this year it'll be on World Music Day, which is June 21st. I think last year there was easily 2,000 to 3,000 people that show up. And it's free. It's a community event. So it's like, come on down, bring your blanket, bring your lawn chair. Mm-hmm. We're doing 5 of these, what we're calling family days this year. 3 will be in Shenley Plaza. 1 is in Allegheny Commons. 1 is in Riverview. The Riverview one will be a nighttime one because we're partnering with the observatory. So we're calling that Galactic Family Adventure Day. That's going to be,
Ooh.
Yeah. So we're actually going to have stormtroopers there from Star Wars and.
Okay, so I will come dressed as a Jedi.
Absolutely. So sneak peek. You heard it here, folks.
Thank you so much for all of this. I'll see you in the parks, Matthew.
Oh, thank you so much, Sophia.
That's all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. If you're looking for more ways to celebrate Earth Day or events in our parks, check out our website. It's pittsburgh.citycast.fm and subscribe to our Hey Pittsburgh newsletter. We have cool stuff in there all the time. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Talk to you then. Are there any parks where things are maybe more adult size? Like I'm not kicking a kid off of a playground. I'm not a monster, but I've been to a couple parks where the swings were clearly made for someone shorter, which is fine. I know kids are the target demographic, but where can I go?
It's funny that you should ask that question. So I was up at the Shenley Oval the other evening when the weather was warm and there was nobody around, and I looked at the swing set and I thought, that's grown-up size. And I can't remember the last time I was on a swing, and it was grown-up size. And I went over and I got on the swing.
Okay.
And it was amazing. And I was swinging and looking at Oakland and thinking, okay, this is kind of cool, but also could potentially be embarrassing.